welcome to the first episode of the March Madness $20 to $30 Bourbon Bracket Championship. For this series, I wanted to find out what is truly my favorite bourbon in the specific $20 to $30 range. Let's face it, with all the new releases and high-priced special editions that hit the shelves these days, it's great to know you can find some great bourbons at an affordable price. Now, I chose this price range specifically because there are so many good ones to choose from, including some bottles I haven't had in a really long time. So what I did is I crowdsourced some options and made sure some of my personal favorites were included. What I also did was rank them from 1 to 16, just based on my personal experience with each bottle and how much I've enjoyed each bourbon in the past. Also, I tried to keep these bourbons to selections that are very available and easy to get for the most part. I also chose bourbons that, state to state are consistently priced within that $20 to $30 range for a 750 milliliter bottle for each bracket. So with that, let's see the Sweet 16 and how I rank them. As you can see, this is a great list of bourbon that offer a wealth of different flavor profiles, starting with who I think my number one seed will be, and that is the Wild Turkey 101, which is one of my personal favorites. Followed by Elijah Craig Small Batch, Larceny, Knob Creek Small Batch, Eagle Rare, Old Grandad 114, Early Times Bottled and Bond, and rounding out the top 8, we have Old Forester Signature. At number 9 is one of my new personal favorites. We have Jim Beam Distillers Cut, followed by Four Roses Small Batch, Evan Williams Single Barrel, Buffalo Trace, Old Grandad Bonded, Bulleit, Maker's Mark, and in the last spot, the underdog at number 16, 1792 Small Batch. So take a look, guys. Here are the matchups for each bracket and the rankings as well. I will blind taste all 4 bourbons from each bracket, and the top 2 will move on to the next round until eventually we crown a champion. This should be a lot of fun, so let's get started. Here's a closer look at bracket 1. So bracket 1 includes my number 1 pick, or the favorite, Wild Turkey 101, which is an 8-year-old bourbon bottled at 101 proof. Now the 10 seed, which is Four Roses Small Batch, which is bottled at 90 proof, and will also vary between in ages 6 to 8 years old depending on the batch. The 15 seed is Maker's Mark, the iconic dipped red wax top wheated bourbon, also coming in at 90 proof, followed lastly by the 11 seed Evan Williams Single Barrel, bottled at 86.6 proof, and one of my favorite bourbon bargains. All right, guys, so here we go with bracket 1 for the March Madness $20 to $30 Bourbon Challenge. Here we go. It's Wild Turkey 101, Evan Williams Single Barrel, Maker's Mark versus Four Roses Small Batch. I have the rankings here on the side just to remind you what I'm sipping on, what's in the bracket. Keep your eye on the graphics too. I'll kind of remind you of what the other seeds are and what the other brackets are going to be as well. So these are all poured in order. I have on the stickers on the bottom, A, B, C, D. To their corresponding key that I have here written down on a piece of paper. So before we get started, let's mix them up. All right, guys, now as I mentioned, I'm gonna blind taste them, nose them, and really try to rank my top 2. Top 2 in this flight will move on to the next round and so on and so on. So really excited. So here we go. Let's go for the first glass here. That one is super sweet on the nose. You get a lot of corn. There's some it's almost like a opening up a Cracker Jack box. It's got that really sweet caramel candy corn scent on there. There's a good amount of citrus there on the nose as well. Really sweet, really nice nose. That's good. That's just a really good, flavorful bourbon nose. Got some good balance there. It has some oak in there. Really good, kind of a fruity, floral characteristic there. Yeah, this is all really just a lot of corn sweetness. You get a little bit of a citrus flavor in there, a little bit of a citrus note. There are some berries there, I think, too. A little bit of a dark fruit, but not much. Very, very small hint of it. Really good on the nose. Let's go in for the first sip. Cheers. Ooh, yeah, that's really delicious. That's probably one of the more fruit-flavored bourbons that you're going to have. This is just peaches, apricots, a little bit of cherry there, but there's still that overlying corn sweetness with that caramel, that Cracker Jack vibe I was getting on the nose. That's really good on the first sip. Let's go for another one. Here we go. All right, second sip kind of evened out a little bit. Definitely getting still more of that... a little bit more of that sweet characteristic in there, but yeah, it's coming across still more as like peaches and apricots and really nice citrus notes to it. That's really good. All right, I'm gonna mark my notes here for this one. That first one was good. Even I just took a sip of water and I could still kind of taste it. It's definitely sticking around a little bit. All right, let's go with letter B on the nose and see what we get. Way more of an oaky and more of a nutty character to it. Definitely some corn sweetness in there. Not as much fruit character in this one compared to number 1 here. This has just more, a little bit layers of oak and sweetness. Definitely some corn and caramels in there. But I'm getting a real nice punch of a good kind of an almond note on there too, which is really nice. Yeah, the noses for 1 and 2 couldn't be more completely different, which is interesting in doing something like this. You really get to see the nuances and flavors that come out of each glass. Getting a little bit more of a fruity characteristic. Now, these have been sitting here for, probably hadn't opened for about 30 minutes, just sitting in the glass, really kind of opening them up. Yeah, the oak and the oak and the wood characters in that almond flavor is really the most prevalent in this glass, and it's got this very, very slight dark fruitiness to it, but not as fruity as compared to glass 1. So let's go in for a sip. Cheers. Well, that definitely has a nicer finish than number 1. This finish kind of hits you a little bit longer. Yeah, it's sticking around, a little bit of a nice spiciness on the end. Definitely some sweetness. You could definitely taste there's definitely more oak in there. That fruitiness character that I was getting a little bit on the nose, I'm not really getting it too much on the palate on this one. That's really good on the palate. Let's go for one more quick sip. Cheers. You get that second sip, the flavors start kind of leveling off a little bit, and then different things start to come to the surface. With this one, the front is very sweet. Not much, really, too much going on in the mid palate, but then the finish on that one is really where it's at. So I'm liking that one as far as the finish goes. All right, guys. So a couple bottles I want to mention that I did not throw in here, which was is Weller Special Reserve and also Henry McKenna Bottled and Bond. Just because I know they are in that range, but I've seen too many price variances around from state to state. Henry McKenna has gone up in price in a lot of places over that $30 mark. Weller Special Reserve is usually still in that good price range, but it's really hard to find. So I didn't really want to include those, but I think I have plenty of really good options for this 16 bracket shootout. All right, so let's try the third glass. Here we go on the nose. Ooh, that's probably the most alcohol forward I've got on the nose. That one's got a real alcohol kick to it, but very sweet. Yeah, there's definitely a good amount of oak influence in there. You are getting a little bit of a cinnamon punch there on the nose. All right, let's go for a sip on number 3. Here we go. Cheers. Oh, the palate way outdid the nose. The palate was way better. The palate had a really nice balance of sweetness. Definitely a little bit of oak in there. It's probably one of the more creamier type mouthfeels I was getting. This one's kind of sticking around. Not as much as number 1, but got a good it's got a good mouthfeel to it. Let's take another sip here. Cheers. But this one's actually offering a really nice finish to it. It's kind of lingering down, especially giving you a little bit of a good Kentucky hug there. That's kind of nice on the palate, but it's very maybe 1, 2, 3 notes there that are immediate. The finish kind of lingers around, which is kind of saving it there a little bit, but it's pretty basic, good, sweet, caramel, good bourbon. Go for one more sip. This one's puzzling me a little bit. It's more sweet than anything, not a huge oak influence. There's a little bit there in the end. But the finish on that one is actually surprisingly kind of lingering around. Pretty good. All right, let's go to number 4 and see what we get on the nose. Here we go. Yeah, super, super sweet on the nose. This one might have the biggest punch of a corn sweetness, almost like buttered popcorn right there on the nose. Really nice on the nose. It's a little bit of caramel. Pretty faint there. Really nice corn sweetness on there. A little bit of some caramel. Not a lot of oak on there. Very sweet though. There are some kind of orange and apricots and those type of citrus fruits in here too. It's not very dark. It's not those dark fruits like we were getting, a little bit in in 1 and 2, but this one has a really nice sweet nose to it. All right, let's go to the palate and let's see what we get. Cheers. Wow, that one just kind of came in really flat compared to the others. Not a big finish, very sweet. Very kind of minimal on the flavor profile there. Now let me go for another sip here. That one was a little bit weird. Here we go. Cheers. Oh, the second sip was actually better. Second sip had some really, again, that like nice, really buttered corn type aspect to it. Some caramel there. It's got a short to medium finish. Not a lot of spice kick there in the end. That's interesting. I mean, when you compare it to the other ones, it's probably the flattest of the flavor profiles that I've had out of the 4. It hasn't really, there's no immediate punch of anything. It's just kind of sweet, nice, easy to drink, you know, nice bourbon. Go for one more sip here. Yeah, a lot of corn sweetness, caramel, a little bit of vanilla's in there. Not much of a finish at all. It's very easy. All right, guys, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go through these one more time when we come back and pick out our top 2 and see who's moving on to the next round. All right, guys, welcome back. We took our little break. We're going to run through these one more time very quickly, but we're going to go in reverse order, see if anything changes. See if anything changes my mind. So let's go for it. Here we go. On to number 4. Cheers. Yeah, see, number 4 has changed a little bit. I thought it was definitely pretty flat the first time I tasted it, but it was kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of leveling off really quickly and not offering much of a flavor punch. Yeah, let's go for one more sip of this one. Yeah, the finish on that one is actually getting better and better. It's getting sweeter. It's getting a little bit more oaky. It's sticking around a layer. So my first assumption of what this could be is kind of now changing. I'll be honest. I thought that could have been the makers because it was kind of flat on the flavor profile and I wasn't getting a big kick. But now I am. So now it's kind of altering what I think now. That's so crazy when you do stuff like this. All right, let me take a quick sip of water. All right, let's go into number 3 and see what we get here. Yeah, number 3. Man, the finish on number 3 is so good. And it's bringing a really nice bite to it on the front of the palate. Definitely a little cinnamon cherry there. That's really nice on the front of the palate. This one has a good proof to it. I was going one way with that one too, and now I'm switching. Man, that one's really good too. This is going to be a tough kind of decision to make here. So, all right, I'm taking another quick sip of water. Yeah, the finish on this one is really kind of winning me over. It's just sticking around. That really nice cinnamon kind of punch to it. A little bit of definitely a sweet oak flavor. That's probably the sweetest, oakiest out of all the 3, which is really nice. So, all right, let's go for number 2 here. All right, so number 2, which I really liked around the first turn, is now really kind of leveled out. Sweetness, corn. Definitely a nice, wow, that has a really nice finish on it too, but that is really, really light and kind of smooth on the back end. Really not finishing with a huge oak punch. Now you've got me thinking number 2. Yeah, so the flavor profile of number 2 has just been, it's just beautiful corn sweetness. It's very, very easy on the palate. It's got, it definitely has a nice finish to it, but it's hard for me to, and like I know Maker's Mark in here is the only wheated bourbon, so I'm trying to figure out like what's the one wheated characteristic in here, but I think when you have them all back to back, it's kind of hard to pick it out. You know, they all have a very specific type of flavor or finish right on the end. But man, maybe B has the kind of the lightest. But let me go to A here and let's see what we get. Cheers. Yeah, I like 1 a lot. 1 has this really beautiful balance of fruitiness, oak, sweet corn, vanillas, caramels, and you get that all on the you know, the first and second sips. It's a really good one in this glass here. Yeah, you're still getting those really nice citrus notes in there too. Yeah, there's a specific scent that I've been picking up on one of these brands that I've been getting a lot more lately, and I'm wondering if that's what it is. All right, guys, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna guess what's in each of these glasses and see if I was able to actually pick out what I thought was in each glass, especially based on the second tasting. I'm glad I really did it because it definitely changed throughout the entire time. So, all right, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make my guesses, and then I'm gonna pick my top two, and then from there we'll do the reveal. So, if I had to guess, I'm going to guess. Let me get a quick pen here. This is where my notes were. I'm going to guess that number 4 is Maker's Mark. It just didn't have big enough of a punch for me to really stand out, and I feel like that was the most kind of even keeled and a little bit more bland out of all of them. Yeah, so I'm going to say 4 is Maker's Mark. I'm sticking with it. All right, number three, I'm guessing is, I'm guessing that one is the Wild Turkey 101, just because of that cinnamon cherry finish that I normally get on a 101. There was also a slight nutty characteristics there, and the proof on that one, the finish on that one was what was sticking around, and that's what I really enjoy on 101. So I'm going to guess that's 101. I'm going to guess number 2 is the Evan Williams Single Barrel. That one to me had some really good sweetness to it. It just kind of, you know, the proof on that, it was really, really light. Didn't have a huge finish. I was going back and forth to whether or not this one was the Evan Williams or not. So these two, I'm not really sure. So as you guess, I think that number 1 here is the Four Roses Small Batch. That one is the fruity floral. It's balanced, and it's got that rye, almost pickle type note that I'm getting on the nose, which is something I've been picking up on Four Roses. So I think that was the one I've been able to pick out the easiest. I felt like Wild Turkey 101 would be really easy to pick out all of these, but I actually had a kind of a hard time because this one was kind of leaning towards that way too. I was very surprised at the finish of this one. Well, I guess that this is the Evan Williams, so we'll see. So that's Evan Williams, and one would be Four Roses. So if you haven't guessed already, what I'm doing is I'm going to move number 1, and I'm going to move number 3 to the next bracket. So these two are moving on. These two will be eliminated. All right, guys, so now it's time to find out what is in these glasses. So we have number 4, which I eliminated. I did guess that this is Maker's Mark, and I have my key right here, so we're going to find out. So under here is letter B. Letter B is Evan Williams Single Barrel. Whoa. Well, that threw me for a loop. So Evan Williams Single Barrel was this one. That is probably one of the more bland Evan Williams Single Barrels I've had. Now, I could have had just kind of a funky bottle. It is a single barrel, so they do vary from bottle to bottle. But this particular one just wasn't doing it. So Evan Williams Single Barrel is eliminated from the brackets. Now let's go to my number 2 bourbon, or the number 2 glass, and let's see what was in this one. So this one I said was the Evan Williams, so I have no idea what's in here, so let's see. This is letter A, which was, this was the Maker's Mark. That's crazy because this one had way more of a finish than the Evan Williams Single Barrel. Wow, Maker's Mark was making a play for an upset, because that was in the mix, that one. I was really liking that one. Yeah, but the second way through was what really kind of changed it. So number 1 and number 3 are moving on, which is what my guesses were, between the Four Roses and the Wild Turkey 101. So let's see, number 1 here is letter C. And letter C is, yes, the Four Roses Small Batch. So Four Roses Small Batch, and that leaves letter D, which is Wild Turkey 101. Moving on to the next bracket. Awesome, awesome, awesome. This was a lot of fun. I got a little bit nervous with that, with these two. I still can't believe that this was the Evan Williams. That's really surprising. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to Bracket 1 for the 2019 Sweet 16 $20 to $30 Bracket Championship. As we already had said, moving on, we have Wild Turkey 101 and Four Roses Small Batch, which is moving on to the next round. So, bracket 2, we have some heavy hitters going to be starting soon. Elijah Craig Small Batch, Knob Creek Small Batch, Larceny, which is one of my favorite wheated bourbons, and we also have one of my new favorites, the Jim Beam Distillers Cut. So we have some heavy hitters coming in this one. It'll be really interesting to see who comes out on top on this one, because these are all just delicious bourbons. So will be a lot of fun. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button below. Please hit that like button. If you haven't yet, please find me on Instagram, and you can also find me on Twitter. So let me know down in the comments if you agree with my rankings, what you guys think, what would you rank where. Let me know if you have to put some money on it. Who do you think out of these four are going to come out on top in bracket 2? Let's have some fun with this. So with that, can't wait to see you again. Like I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it is the people you share it with. So cheers, and I'll see you for bracket 2. Take care.